My name is Cerovic. I'm an architect, map maker. I started my career as an architect, and then my passion for mapping overtook that career and built a completely new one. Very good. I do this, and you change the slide. Okay. We'll do that. No problem. 10 years ago, I published a series of maps, of metro maps, 40 cities, all drawn with the common graphic language. So the goal was to standardize in a way the language of communication while maintaining the particularity of each network. And that part is made by the structure. There's a book over there, you can see it. They're all inside. And over those 10 years, those networks have changed. Some of those networks have changed a lot. Here you have Beijing with huge extensions that were implemented over time. But still, the map works the same because there was provision for those extensions. The language is functioning on both scales, and it's a matter of structure. You have a structure that is dedicated to that very network. Each one of the networks has their own structure. Once you have found it, well, it's quite easy to continue, extend, and you keep the balanced artwork. So while the look for the standard, if you have a common language that you don't have to teach people, and well, pretty much the metro maps have achieved something of that kind worldwide, you then unleash the power of the map. We all know here how powerful a map is. It's a representation of reality. It's an artwork, it's an artifact, but it becomes reality because the network itself, you cannot see it. I mean, unless you walk station by station, but you cannot walk through the corridors, through the tunnels. So the network exists only so far as you have a representation of it. Proof of it, you have here the two stations, east and west on Tiananmen Square. And if you remove one of the stations, well, it ceases to exist to most users. And you have just shifted the whole flow to one of the two stations. So that's the power you have. You change a small little detail on the map, and you start moving millions of people in a different way. Same goes with colors. You have the main line, the line 1, that is red, east-west, and it's, of course, it's overburdened, it's overcapacity. And you have another one which is parallel to it, the brown one. So if you just switch the colors, you will switch lots of users from one line to the other, simply switching colors. That's the power you have in your hands when you're working on transit maps, because you are shaping reality, basically. That takes us to the last 3 years, when I started working with Switzerland, a beautiful country. You all know it's absolutely beautiful and one of the best public transport systems in the world. So at the beginning, I was exploring the existing maps in Switzerland and found out there's a very particular situation. Every single city in Switzerland, first of all, has a map, which is not the case in the rest of the world, and has a schematic map. That's pretty much the only place in the world where you have really a schematic map for every single small network. And they all look Swiss. They're all different, but they have a Swiss feeling. And I started looking at what is it that makes that feeling. I didn't know back in time that there was a federal regulation for that. So with my friend Alex Bocon-Gibault, who was working with me at the time, we made a dissection of all those networks, taking all the elements from each network, classifying them and comparing them. And they are very similar, but there are particularities. Each one of them has some different things. The kinks are different, the rounded angles are different, the stations are slightly different. And out of that, we were looking at, could we make a Swiss standard? We did not know that the Swiss standard existed, actually. So we started taking elements from each of one. Back, please. We took elements from each of the networks and chose some of them that were representative and built a common one. Common colors, common stations, common lines, everything common. And now it had to be tested. So to test if it's working, I invented the city of Legern. So it sounds Swiss, German. It looks like Switzerland, and there's a lake, but it's on the wrong side. And there's an old town, there's a funicular. You have all the elements, and we made it very dense to check if the new system was working. So it was a test ground, and it did pretty well. So it was a good test, very conclusive. So from the test, we started applying that to the very maps. That's the maps we had before, the existing ones, and the common standard. And then we switched them into the new common standard. And now it's just Swiss. It's all Swiss. Everybody has the same language. It's the same colors used everywhere. It's the same line width, same angles. And you really get a common system for the whole country. Since all those networks are pretty much connected, in Switzerland it has become one wide, statewide network. So why would you have different representation, different information system if it's basically one network? And then as things go, I had this on my hand. What do you do when you have something like that? You publish it. So thanks to the magic of LinkedIn, it used to be Twitter for the magic, now it's LinkedIn. Who knows what will be the next. So I published all these, and people started reacting, and I'm scanning the reaction. And the first reaction I got was from this gentleman here, Mathieu Giraudier, who is in charge of the passenger information in Genève. Said, oh, that's nice. I want that for Genève. Did you do it? I said, no, Genève had a decent map, so I didn't touch it, but we can work together on it. It's not only the language. It's about, when I was saying it's about the structure. All those maps have the same language, the exact same, but they all have a completely different structure that corresponds to the shape and the typology of the city. And the point is that at the glance, you recognize what city it is. So you have the aesthetics on one side, and you have the hidden structure on the other. You have Bern, very central, and the shape of the river giving you the position. Basel has also Basel centrality, and in Lausanne, we'll talk about Lausanne later. You have the old town, the east-west connection with the main bridge in the center, and of course the lake. Geneva. So Mathieu gets in touch with me saying we should work on Geneva. Here's the existing map of Geneva that was at the time. It's pretty decent, everything is on it, all the services, the whole network, but it doesn't show how good the network is. It doesn't show enough the topology of the city. The lake is very present in Geneva. It's called the Lake of Geneva, Lac Léman. And here it's just like a second thought on the map. So what we did is we took the previous work on Legern, that common language, and we readapted it to Geneva, taking elements from Geneva and keeping some others, inventing some new on the fly, and we built a new graphic standard to make a new map, brand new map for Geneva. So in this one, what you have is, it's a schematic map. It is a schematic map, but the central part, the circle in the center, is up to scale. So you have the real geography, the real distances, and the street network. That's the part of the map where that's the pedestrian part, basically. You don't need to switch from one line to the other. You can just go and walk from one place to the other. After that, it becomes highly schematic, and distances are highly distorted. The further you go away, the more distortions you will have. The map is centered. You have the old town right in the center of the layout, and then 1/8 of the map is the lake, just the diagonal and the vertical. So it has a much stronger presence than before, and has the river, the Rhône flowing out, the other, so the landscape is much more present than before. When you zoom in. So the new elements were that when you have a connection, instead of having just one blob for the connection, we have separate elements. First to show you each color of each line that's there, but with the digitalization, the future digitalization of the map in view, so that each of those stops is a separate object. So you can make it work. You can connect it directly to a database, animate, do whatever you want. With the blob, it's much more difficult. We also, the difference with the usual Swiss standard, we have different width for the lines. The thick ones, it's the tram, thinner lines are the bus, and then the buses have different colors. We have also two different buses, main buses and the local buses. So we have a different, three different levels for the services. The map was put in place. The main difficulty for the map is that we have a limited space to place it, and by law it is required that the entire network be shown on the map. So this was the first edition. Now after 3 years with all the additions on it, we are reaching the limits and thinking about what to do next, because we are really reaching the limits of we have filled entirely the space, because there are many new lines coming in. And on the next symposium we'll talk about what next, what happens when you've reached the limits of your layout. Map was nice, everybody was happy. And then Mathieu had a great idea to call all his colleagues from the other cities saying, look guys, we just implemented this whole idea. Why don't you join us and really have a common standard for all of us, not only Geneva, and we'll adapt it to your situation too. So next stop, Lausanne. We have Jeanne here, who is from Lausanne. We are working together. We have been working for 2 years, 3 now. So the next stop was Lausanne. That was the existing map of Lausanne. I said Geneva was decent, Lausanne was not even decent. It was a subpar map considering the quality of the network and the quality of the operator. So we made a new one with the new standard. That's pretty much the map that you've seen at the beginning that was coming from the Legern project, but adapted with all the additions that we invented and all the tweaks that we had in Geneva, and we just applied it to Lausanne. And then with each new map, whenever we invent something new or we change something, we update all the old ones. So we always keep all the maps with the same common language. After Lausanne, we have Nyon, which is located in between Lausanne and Geneva. Nyon had 2 separate maps, one for the local buses, one for the regional buses. So just put them all together into one. And that's how Nyon is. It's on 45 degrees on the lake. And notice the green areas all around. That's the fair zones. We have different fair zones. But here they are set as mountains. You're in Switzerland. The mountains are on that side. So it's really the mountains there. So the fair zones make the landscape on the map. We're here in cities. Now the next extension was the Valais, the whole canton of Valais. So the whole region, completely different scale. Existing map was this one. So it was, they call it the panoptic map. You have all the services. Red is rail, yellow is buses, and green is all the gondolas and funiculars, and everything, because we're in the mountains here in Switzerland. But what is most missing on this map is the mountains themselves. You're right in the Alps. It's all valleys and peaks, and you have absolutely no idea where you are, where's the valley, where the peak is. Here we added the landscape. You have, in white, you have all the valleys and all the services inside, and then it goes with shades of green, like contours, contour lines, showing you that you're going up and up and up, and you have a clear distinction with what is up, what is down, and yeah, schematized map, because if you come back to the one before, no, very difficult to read when it's too dense. Angles don't make any sense, because this is schematized, but geographic schematized, you can't really tell. And please, and here, simplified to the utmost. A few diagonals, but it's almost an orthogonal map with everything. That's one small part of this area. One place, one town. You have Sierre down there and the ski center in Crans-Montana. So again, here we have it's not the fair zones, but we use those colors that are used for the fair zones, and we show you the landscape. Down there, you're in the valley of the Rhône. Then you're going up the vineyards, and up there you're in the forests and in the mountains, and all the way to the top you have the skiing. So your transit map is at the same time a tourist map and a local wayfinding map and a skiing map. It does everything at once. So you see, all those maps are made with the exact same graphic language, but the structure is completely different. It shows different scales, different places, different flavors, all the way to the most schematic one, which is the map just for the fair zones for the railways in Geneva. So as Geneva, the canton of Geneva is pretty much circular, and the railways, that's how they go. It's just a circular diagram. So same language, but entirely different structure. And this one is applied everywhere across the rail system. Here's the standard. So we have all the elements that are used in all the maps, all the components. Some of them, the ones at the top, are the same for everyone, and some are different, where you have the landmark drawings. Well, each city has their own landmarks, but in the same color, in the same style. And out of that, so we started with Geneva, we went all the way to Lausanne, then Valais, and the system kept expanding, and we have now more than 15 networks that are physically connected. They are really connected to each other. And now we have reworked the maps for all those networks, and they now share all a common graphic language, but they all have their own style. You can recognize each one of the networks, each one of the cities, by their shape and their flavor. We have now reached the boundary of the French-speaking area. We are entering the German-speaking area. Well, we might enter the German-speaking area, we'll see. That's what we have reached now. And in the south, we have the Italian-speaking area. So we'll see if we can expand further and if it can work on the other side. That's not guaranteed, but we'll try. For now, all this region has been covered. We have a few more networks missing, but basically we have covered all of French-speaking Switzerland with a common language. And it's been several years now, it's functioning. So we have proof that it's working, it's all fine, everybody's happy. Switzerland, we have covered, how do I say, horizontally. So we started from one point, we have a common system, and we cover a territory. We extend as much as we can. Now, in Barcelona, it's an example of verticality. Going from metro to metro, it's easy. You're inside the metro station, it's a controlled environment, it's not raining, everything is fine, you have signage, wayfinding, everything is fine. Going from metro to bus, it's another story, especially if you are in an area that you don't know, you get out of the metro, you don't necessarily have such an easy way to get to the bus. Same from bus to bus. So our goal is to make metro to bus or bus to bus just as easy as metro to metro. Not an easy task because you don't control the outside environment, it doesn't belong to you. So we have to find ways to do that on all levels. First task, an audit. We just looked at the existing system. So not just jumping, oh, we do this and that. No, let's see what we have. So the first thing we did is the collection of all the signs and all the elements of signage and wayfinding that exist, wherever we find them. So we just collect all of them and say where we found them. Entrance, platform, street, whatever. Then once we have that, we organize them, we make a taxonomy. What type of component we have? What types of signs, what types of maps, and where are they located? Now we have a much better idea of what's going on, and we can see that we have different types of maps, different types of line maps. Why would we have so many of them? But simply, people just don't know what they have. First, you have to do all of that. And then we come to the interesting part, is the deconstruction, the dissection. You take each one of those elements, and you decompose it into its components. Colors, typefaces, shapes. And in Barcelona, when you decompose all of it, at the end, in the metro, you find a square. It's always a square used in the metro. So if you find in the metro anything that's not a square, you have a problem. In the buses, it's a circle. So if you have something that is not a circle in the buses, then it's not consistent. So we got to the basic elements, and then from those basic elements, we recomposed the signs so as to guarantee consistency and to avoid double or tripling the signs. And we just get all the typologies with the full consistency vertically. That gets us to the full system. You say, oh, let's redo the full system. What's the system? It's too vast. You can't do everything at once. You have no idea of what exists. So you have to so we invented a matrix, how to represent all the elements. It goes in rows and columns. The rows are by size, by scale, like garment, SML. So you have the large scale, that's the scale of the whole network. Then you have the middle scale, which is the scale of the interchange or of the area. And then the local scale, that's one station or one stop. And in the column, it's the dimensions of information. One-dimensional information, it's a sign. Two-dimensional is the map, three-dimensional is the space. So you take them one by one, and you can work on each one of them separately, but this allows you to have all the others in mind, because everything you do in one will have consequence on the others. Take the branding, that's all the elements of the maps, the signage, etc. You will have them everywhere. You change something there, everything changes. Then in furniture, we have those signs for the metro that exists already. And we say, okay, what do we need? Well, we should have some for the bus. Just the same type, so that when you get out of the metro, you see the metro stations. We should have some for the buses too. So immediately you can see where the bus stops are. Then when we move to the signage itself, the goal is, in the metro, the signage is pretty good. I mean, it's already good. There's some optimization to be done, but it's pretty good. But the bus one is not that good. So what we're doing is taking the metro signage and taking it out of the metro on the street and using the metro signage across the whole system. We apply it to the bus stops and to the tram stops and all the others. We go deeper into maps. That's our topic. Back in time, when I published all those metro maps, I drew a map of Barcelona. I used to live in Barcelona, so I know the place pretty well. And that map, in that setting, works perfectly in this square. You take the diagonal, that's how geographically Barcelona is. It's a diagonal, about 45 degrees, and you can fit all the lines, you can fit even the raster of the streets. It works pretty well graphically. But in real life, it doesn't work at all. You give that map to anyone in Barcelona, they can't use it, they don't understand it. Because Barcelona is laid out like this in the mind of people. It's horizontal, it's not 45 degrees. Nobody can use Google Maps in Barcelona because they can't tilt it. You have to tilt your phone, otherwise you can't use it. The sea is to the bottom, the mountain is on the top, and the grid of the streets is east-west. That's how you see that city. On Apple Maps, you can turn the grid. On Google, you have to go to the satellite view. Then you can use it. So the map has to be tilted. And that was the official map when I started working with the TMB in Barcelona. It was always one of my favorite maps because it has a street overlay, and metro and the streets are really completely connected. There is deformations, of course. It's not strictly geographic. But topologically, it works perfectly. And it's one of the rare places where you really have this connection and it's really working. Nevertheless, there were some issues on that map because it's an old map and there have been additions, and no revision. So if you look at this area at the left, you see it's very cramped because there were several additions and just everything was put there, even though there's a lot of space next to it. But nobody redesigned that part. Other elements, you see over there, the last station in Trinitat Nova, you have it written 3 times. Because the principle at the beginning was, at the end of the line, we write the name of the terminus in the color of the line. But now that you have 3 lines, you have 3 times the colored name. So it's just a redundancy that is absolutely not necessary. You have it here in Catalonia too. It happens many times. So here we had to do 2 things. First, revise the elements of the map, like those colors, and redo the whole structure of the map, with the goal being that nobody notices. But it remains the same map without anybody noticing. Here's the result. Instead of all those colors for terminuses, they're all black, like the signage in the metro. So you find on the map the same color and the same typeface as in the metro in the signage. And then the structure is completely reviewed. I have redrawn every single line, every single street, everything is new on this map, but it's still the same map. If you compare the old one with the new one for the same area, see where it's cramped over there? Now you have a nice balanced structure, the same distance between the lines, and it's way closer to reality. That's not reality at all. This is almost geographically accurate. Look at the airport access. Here you have a meandering line going all around, which doesn't give you much information about the airport, especially the last kink. What you need is just a sequence of stations, because it's a highly distorted part of the map anyway. So from here, it looks easier to get to the airport than over there. The structure of the city remains there. You have the sea at the bottom, the mountain at the top, the raster of the streets, and the main avenues that compose Barcelona. They're all here. There is a slight deformation. This is not a 45-degree angle. It's 50-something, because we had to compress the center to get all the periphery into the layout, because Barcelona is much longer than wider. And you have the one exception of the avenue diagonal that's not in the 45 degrees. It just doesn't fit. And if you try to fit it, then you have to break it, and it just doesn't work. So you have the one exception in the map that is not on 45 degrees. So we have a new metro map. Everybody happy. It's all working. We did the testing, and the users are happy with the new map because they didn't notice it's a new map. Everybody says it's the same. Only when you show them the old one, they're, oh, but that's new. So we managed to do what we had as a goal, is to keep entirely the feel and that nobody notices. But now we move to the buses. The buses have two maps. There's one map with all the buses drawn, but all in red lines with some numbers on it. And there is a separate map for the new bus network that is only part of the big network that has vertical, horizontal, and diagonal lines. So at some stops you will have this map, at some you will have this one. And neither will give you the real thing, and on neither of them you will have the metro. So now the idea is to put everything together. Metro, bus, tram, to have one full map for everything. It's a work in progress, it's not finished yet, but nobody believed me that it's doable. No, that's not possible. Yes, it's possible, especially in Barcelona. Maybe in Paris it's not doable, we'll see. But in Barcelona it's doable. Is it useful? That's another question. But it's useful for users. For some users, yes. For most, probably not. Useful for marketing, yes, showing the extent of the network and the coverage. Useful for inside work as a tool, absolutely yes, for planning. Because now you have each single line drawn on the map as a separate line with all its stops and all the connections, which was not existing before. And you have also the metro lines. So there are too many things on this map. So you have to build a hierarchy. It's not finished yet, but so we are working on the colors on the one side, but you have the width of the lines, you have thicker buses and thinner buses, you have stronger color and pastel colors that go to the background, and you have the metro that is beneath everything, because, well, it's underground. And it has a pastel color, and then only when the station is there, then it pops up with a stronger color, then goes back underground. And now the big question is how we show the connections. The places where you transfer from one system to another, for now is just plain, just a black outline. And that's what we're working on now, is the hubs. How do we show the hubs on the maps, and how do we treat them in reality, in real life? So coming back to that, that's the third part. With our network map, Now that we have that full network map at least sketched, we can identify all the hubs to build the matrix of hubs. And then what's a hub? How does it work? So we need to classify them so as to be able to build a project on which we are going to work and how to then disseminate. So we have two approaches. One is the scale of the hub. You have some that are regional hubs. That's the main train stations, the airport, and some major bus terminals. Then you have the urban ones that are urban connections, not necessarily linked to anything outside the city, and the local ones, the neighborhood hubs. That's for the size. Then you have the typology of the hubs. Sometimes you're lucky you have an integrated hub. So you have everything in one site, and it was built so that there is a communication between bus, metro, trains, whatever. That exists, it's rare. Most often you have adjacent hubs. I took that typology from yours actually Mathilde's work. She has 4 typologies. I removed one, I prefer 3. It's easier to understand. So you have the adjacent hubs where you have one operator having their own station, another operator having their own. They're next to each other, but they don't communicate. And then you have de facto hubs, which is most of the situations. People use it as an interchange place, but it was not built as such, and it's not treated as such. That's all the red ones. So the goal of the projects is to make all this green, right? Every single one of them eventually to be green. How do we do that? We take an example at Glorious. The metro station was existent, and the tram was added here, and the Museum of Design was built. So you have the metro down there, the trams are here. It's all very nearby, but it was not built as a connected place. And what we're looking at is how you go from tram, bus, or the environment to the metro, and then from the metro to all of those. Here the metro is at the center, but you can put whatever you want in the center. Here's the situation, overground and underground. What we look at is all the possible flows, all the possible paths, how you go from one place to the other. And on those paths, we locate all the decision points. Every time you have to make a decision, go right, go straight, go back, go left, right, that's a decision point. So we identify it. And we divide the paths into 2 different paths. You have the general one, which may include stairs or other obstacles, and you have the flat path. That's for people in wheelchair, with strollers, luggage, you name it. It has to be flat. So it may have lifts, but it has to be a flat path. And sometimes you see decision points where those 2 paths diverge. If you need the flat path, that's a place where you need to take the decision to go the right way to the flat path. Otherwise, you will get to somewhere and have to go back. So that's a major decision point and a major point of intervention for us. Same thing in the shape of a diagram. And for each decision point, what is the decision that you have to make at that point? It's written small here, you can't read it. So for each one, we look at what is the decision, and then what type of information should be provided at this point. We classify those decision points, again, 3 categories, 3 makes it easy. If it's green, just like traffic lights, if it's green, we have the right information, all is good. If it's yellow, something is missing or not accurate or not updated. If it's red, there is no information whatsoever. And then we look at how we fix each one of them. We fix it with signage, we place new signage. Here what we need is to tell you that for the metro, if you need the elevator, it's this way. Because there is 5 metro entrances, only 1 with elevator. All the other ones, you would get stuck and not knowing what to do. And there is no information to get you to the elevator from there. That's one of those decision points where if you go straight and enter the museum, because you can access the metro there, but there are stairs. And there is no elevator to get to the platforms. You have to take the decision here to go up the ramp and go look for the elevator. So we have to inform the users at this point. The bus signs, so we have the metro signs, so we invented bus signs. No, they're not completely designed yet, but it should be the form of a lollipop, big round. So you have here the full system. From the branding, signage, furniture, all the maps at all scale, and all the wayfinding, all integrated into one. Wherever you are, you feel part of the system. Whichever sign you see, you feel, oh, I'm in an interchange place, somebody's thinking about me. Somebody's thinking about my comfort. I don't need to think too much. It's organized for me because I have other things to do in life than to think about how to get from one bus to another. Somebody's doing that for me. Thank you very much for that. Finish. I would like to go into the local context here, what is called the Greater Bay Area. It used to be called Pearl River Delta. Now it's Greater Bay Area. That's the region where we are here, from Hong Kong to Guangzhou and Macau. And years ago, when I started exploring this area, because it's fascinating, it's huge, you have gigantic cities. 1/3 of everything that's manufactured in the world is manufactured here. Nobody knows exactly how many people live here, some 200 million. And I was looking at the way to schematize it, to see how it's working, because it's too big. So I found that quite symmetric view where you have Hong Kong, Shenzhen to Guangzhou on the one side and Zhongshan, Macau on the other. And then my late friend Gary Gun, who used to live in China for a long time and taught me a lot about China, he told me, no, that's too simple. It's not a symmetry like this. It's actually it's a star, and those 5 cities are located on the end points of the branches of the star, and it's beautiful. It's completely. I did not invent that star. He told me, but it really fits. And then on top of that star, once I had the star, I made a map of something that is unique in the world. It's a network of high-speed regional rail. So you have the long-distance high-speed, that's the purple one, but the orange one, that's local lines, but high-speed lines. And in this region, it's the first time that we have something equivalent to a metro, but on a regional scale, on high speed. That has never existed before, never been treated before. And underneath, you have all the metro networks. And what is also strange is that you have a perfectly geographic map, but with those angles that come from the star, you really get to superimpose a schematic network on top of the geography, and it fits almost perfectly. So to conclude, I invite you to think about what will happen when you start doing the job we've done in Switzerland in expanding horizontally with the common system from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, and expanding vertically with signage, maps, wayfinding over such a great area. What will happen there? That's our new limit. Thank you very much.